Hello, hello. Sorry about that. A couple false starts. We are here. Burnt offerings. This is when we. You see the top of my head. I'm just going to hold the phone the whole time. So this is burnt offerings. Welcome, welcome. This is where we unpack the verse of the day that Judge does every day. And for the next 30 minutes, join us with a great cigar, and we'll see what God has to say to us through His Word. So with that in mind, we are going on to the tripod. Everybody in the shot.
And share this to your newsfeed and to your story. It's a great opportunity to bless somebody during the week with a great discussion about the Word. I'm sharing right now.
All right.
That's such a hilarious shot.
Well, this is really easy to start because this is your fault we're here, Judge, and you've already done this. The rest of us haven't seen the verse yet. At least I haven't. We try not to. We try to hit it cold so we can see exactly what's being said to us. But Judge, you want to go ahead and read the verse for everybody?
Absolutely. Today is Psalms 23, 1 and 2. Psalms 23, 1 and 2.
Never heard of it.
The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters.
Yeah.
Pretty well-known verse.
Well, I was going to say.
Four sections of that, right?
This is just 1 and 2, yeah.
No, but I mean, there's like
There is.
four pieces to it.
There is. Oh, and this one, yes. So in looking at that this morning, this is what I came up with.
David said it's coming.
When we live in Jesus, He is our leader. He provides everything we need or want. He gives us life and rest. That was my interpretation.
All right. The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters.
Here's a question. Is that true?
Well,
Which
the Lord
part?
is our shepherd.
Well, that's true. Do you ever lack something?
Well, I think, I think we, as I said, as I thought about it, I think we always have everything we need. We always want a little more. And we think we need a little more. Really our basic needs, they're pretty simple. They're pretty simple. If we're good with God, I think we're pretty well taken care of.
Well, I was thinking about that, and I've been also dealing with not having enough quiet time. Like, I can't seem to find a time when, look at us. This is the type of devotional we're going to unpack the Bible verse, and there's 6, 7 of us, and we got all this noise around. The whole still waters thing, I'm finding like maybe I just need to get away, go into the mountains or something, but I just feel like the noise and chaos lately has just gotten so loud.
That takes an effort sometimes. I think sometimes we have to really mentally remove ourselves from everything and just put ourselves in the right frame of mind to be close to God.
I think sometimes even in the noisiest of environments, I think we need to quiet ourselves.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's really an intentional state of mind.
Right.
Notice it says He makes you to lie down.
Makes.
In other words,
Yeah.
we're kind of
Break
rebelling, or we're always so busy, or we're always so just doing everything that we want to do or we think we have to do. And He really is saying, like, hey man, the Sabbath is a real thing. You need to rest.
I was more taken by the difference of the translation, at least for me, that I've heard my whole life is I shall not want. So I was just looking at the Greek here, the Hebrew. I was looking at the Hebrew here, and it was just interesting because, so the not want or not lack is actually there. So you could actually translate that, I shall not want, or I shall not lack. So you can either say lack nothing, because those words can be interchanged in the way they do it. So I'm like, how do they make that happen? So you could say, I shall not want, or lack nothing. Both those words work in that way. So I just thought this was an interesting choice. The idea of one is a position that I have before God, I lack nothing. One is a position of heart, I shall not want. So I just thought that was just an interesting,
Interesting on
choice.
This is the Hebrew, and
Yeah.
it also says instead of lacking, but to make lower
Yeah.
or make for wanting.
Right.
That's interesting.
And Hebrew is a very simple language, by the way. So it is like, if you've ever been to Israel, to be like you might call this an end table or a coffee table, but that, your kitchen table, your shelf,
all have the
your-
same
that's-
name?
It's all the same thing.
It's all table.
So there is a lot of ability in Hebrew because it's a very simple language to just be like, this is all that. So yeah, I don't know. I just thought I actually like I lack nothing actually is the shall not want, because I thought the shall not want is about the way I'm going to respond to the Lord being my shepherd, and lack nothing is because the Lord is my shepherd, because it says the Lord is my shepherd. I actually think this was a pretty good choice they made here, since it's a statement about who he is. It's a direct indication of where I stand before him. So I don't know, because the shepherd indicates the responsibility for the sheep, not the sheep's responsibility towards the shepherd. And so I was like, oh, interesting. Not bad. I mean, it's my first crack at it.
It'd be interesting to know what the original intent was to communicate,
Right.
right? Because I mean, as it's being written, it was being communicated. There was something he had in mind, right? I would like to know that specifically. I'm trying to remember at what point in life this was written. Some of the other Psalms, you know exactly when and what circumstances are happening, right?
Right.
This seems to be more general, like a general statement about this existence with God.
Right.
Because clearly, there are times, I mean, American Christianity doesn't sometimes translate to African Christianity. To tell an African whose family is starving, you shall not want, like, hello,
Yeah.
I'm wanting.
Yeah.
My family's wanting, right? So there has to be something there. Not like they're not serving God. They're probably serving God maybe more faithfully than we are. So, is it spiritual?
Well, it's funny you say it, because the first thing, and I'm not trying to us over pastor it, but he ends this whole chapter with, "And I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever." Ultimately, kind of putting a bookend on it is like my ability to not lack or want is not connected to my circumstances, which is ever changing, but to my eternal dwelling.
Well, and maybe that's what you're talking about. Maybe this is just a lead-in to life eternal with God. And in that environment, the hereafter, the eternal life, in that environment, you certainly will not want for anything.
I think about it, if I'm the sheep, and what is the shepherd? They're 100%, 100% caretaker.
100%.
They're your caretaker. So I mean, it's kind of like I have a caretaker.
Yeah.
I'm never going to leave him. And that's like the short boiled down
The
version.
shepherd's hook was protection and direction. The stick could ward off the beasts, and the hook could also bring them into the fold. So it was like a twofold weapon.
I think where it hits me is we talked about basic desires and having what we need. I think the two most basic human desires are shelter and food, at least physical. And it's been a struggle for me lately with my family situation. Yeah, we've been moving a lot, and we've been trying to buy a house in this crazy market. We've been in escrow on a house for 8 months.
You've been in escrow on a house for
on
8
a-
No,
months.
trying to close
Trying
for
to
8
close
months.
For 8 months.
on this house.
Oh,
that,
you can't-
that
it's
was supposed to be
crazy
a
right now.
2-week process from top to bottom, and it ended up being really beyond that. And we actually just closed on it yesterday. And it should be a recording today, hopefully, or tomorrow.
Good.
The recording process is also 8 months.
Yeah.
It's an 8-month recording process. Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
It does feel that way when you're reading the documents.
But yeah, it does. And, being in that situation of not knowing where your family, we just had a new baby also a month ago, so not knowing where we're going to be,
Right.
where we're going to lay our head down at night.
You were supposed to be in the new house before the
Supposed
baby
to be-
came.
that was the plan.
Right.
And but you know what? Everything worked out. It wasn't our timing, but ultimately, God had a plan for it and how long it was supposed to take. And I truly believe that. And so I've been just in this state of like peace ever since it closed, because it's been a stressful time. I've been trying to fix everything myself and try to drive this thing. And when I really let go and just kind of said, let's just let things happen and work out the way they're supposed to, things started to fall into place, and it really was able to be a good
So
outcome.
I love it that So I mean, it's not really the next verse that even though you're walking through the dark place or the shadow of death or whatever, valley or whichever version you're reading.
Streets of Fresno.
Yeah, the streets of Fresno. But I mean, still, even though it says we have a caretaker and we don't ever want to leave him, it doesn't say you're not going to go through all the crap, right? And what's the next verse? Who's got it up?
I have the whole thing up.
Talk about.
He makes me lie down in green pastures.
Yeah,
He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake.
Okay, here we go.
Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they
There we
comfort
go.
me.
Yeah.
Well, what
We're
is
gonna
it?
have that. We're gonna be in those places.
I think for us as a believer, if you're a believer, what you're looking at is that even pain has a purpose, right? Without faith, without Christ, pain has no purpose.
Agreed.
And the Bible's pretty clear. It says that God's blessings fall on the just and the unjust alike. He sends the rain down on the farmer who curses God, and the same rain falls on the farmer who loves God. But in the end, God brings everything to a close, right? So I do think that it's the psalmist is saying that you just can't go wrong with connecting with God. You can't go wrong with that.
Live
Right?
in Christ,
Yeah.
your life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even at the end of what you were saying, like ultimately, right? The Lord is my shepherd. That's not just a statement of His position; it's a statement of ours.
Just
Like,
follow him.
I'm submitted to Him, and I am His responsibility. He is taking care of me.
Right.
I think it's interesting in this whole chapter, it's not a very long one, and it's famous for a reason, is the presence of the shepherd allows you to behave counter to your circumstance. And here's what I mean by that. In green pastures you would normally eat, here you can lie down. In quiet waters you would normally drink, but he refreshes my soul. You get refreshed by the quiet
Oh,
waters,
yeah, it is
but then
very
God,
interesting.
it's all inverted. He guides me along their paths for his name's sake, as opposed to me picking my own way. I walk through the darkest valley where I'd normally be afraid. Because of him, I'm not afraid. Normally when I'm in the presence of my enemies, I'm ready to fight. In this place, we're eating together. This goodness and love will follow me. It's just this God's presence kind of changes everything, and the shepherd's presence allows me to act counter to what my life might be dictating. My life is dictating behave this way. Because the presence of the shepherd, I can live this way.
My human will.
Right.
That will that we talk about, like wanting more all the time. You know, our needs are very basic when you get right down to it.
Thy will be done, not my will.
Yeah, I think that's a great perspective, Joe. I like this idea that God sometimes is counterintuitive, which is why to an unbeliever sometimes the gospel makes no sense at all because it's so counterintuitive to how they see life, right?
Yep.
It's faith.
It is faith,
It's
which
just
is
faith.
hard sometimes.
Jesus is a stumbling block to the makes sense. Doesn't make sense to either group. He's just like, what? That's ridiculous. It is. But it goes back to this idea of, I guess, so let's instead of an idea, how about a question? So, has there been a time where your relationship with God has led you to act counter to what you thought you would? Like you've been in a situation and God's like, I know you think this is the right answer. Will you trust me and go this way instead? And then you guys think of a time like that.
Well, I think we've all had moments where we were trying to force a situation. Someone told me one time the hardest thing sometimes is to do nothing. And doing nothing is an action. It's a conscious action because we as humans want to fix things. And as men, we're even worse. Our responsibility is to fix things. You wanted to somehow force that closure. Right. Do everything I can to make this happen. And that's really sometimes the hardest action to take is to do nothing and turn your life over to Christ and say, your will be done and it's got to be better than mine.
David Barrios in the house. Here we go.
I've been listening the whole time.
Oh, so we don't have to repeat the
You don't
verse.
have to.
There we
So
go.
I'll start over.
So
And our one fan who was actually watching is
Yeah.
That's it. Now we're down to zero.
now we're down to we're live
But
to
people
live
come
to
back
one.
it. But
It's
people
zero.
come back to it all the time.
So I want to throw one perspective that God He chooses us. We're a royal priesthood, right? And so I think to an outsider, the fact that God chose us and that we're part of His flock, if you would, is hard for some people to grasp. Why did I get chosen and not someone else, right? And so He knew, like I think it is, He knew ahead of time why He would choose us. And I think the shepherd knows his sheep, right? It says that the sheep will know his voice, but it's also the shepherd knows who is in his fold.
Yeah.
He'll know instantly if that sheep is not part of his fold.
True.
And it brings me back again to the parable of, who in the wedding feast, how did you get in here? Where are the clothes, the robe that I gave you? And he asked him to leave because he had clothed himself in his own righteousness rather than what God had clothed him with. So
good. I like that
All right.
perspective.
And I'm really stuck on the last thing go 3 times back to your comment. We think we need something and constantly we're praying for a certain outcome.
Yep.
Just like we're praying to, we're thirsty. He takes you right to the water and then He quenches our thirst. Not what we're asking for. It's like, it's constantly, our hearts changed, or the circumstance, although He gives you that answer, it doesn't even matter anymore. A lot of times once I received what I was looking for, I got something else and the actual thing didn't even, had no meaning anymore.
Yeah.
And
It's
that's
hard
what's this counterintuitive, like you said, how do non-believers see that?
because
What?
it's
It's
so
like,
hard
why
to
do
have
we
that much faith. To just turn it over. Just turn it over and just let it go. And we've all been in that situation. Just let it go.
Well, especially like if you're in a circumstance where you're like, and I know this is everybody, we're in different seasons. There are a lot of times like I'm doing something like, God, why is this happening? He's like, stop doing that. Like that's really bad. Like, you know what I mean? Like those are the easy ones. Like, oh,
Those are consequences.
Like, oh yeah.
Those are all yours.
But then there's other situations where like all I'm doing is following you, God, and I'm literally surrendering every moment to you, and my needs aren't met, or I'm facing this challenge, and I find every time I come to God, where I'm like, hey, what do you want me to do here? I just kind of hear this, follow me. I kind of hear this, fix your eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of your faith. That doesn't solve my eternal circumstances, my temporal circumstances, but it does bring me peace that what I'm really putting in the forefront of my mind is my eternity with Him and trusting Him, even in spite of what I'm facing. And I'm even saying, I'll do anything. I'll take 5 more jobs. I'll do anything. He's like, just follow me. Keep your eyes on me. That is really hard, but there's also a peace in that to say, okay, all right, I really don't get to control this. I feel good about that I'm trying to follow you. And you know what? In this sense, almost consequences be damned. I'd rather go down following God than, tread water not following Him. So I've made it weird. Sorry, everybody.
No, I'm just thinking. I'm just thinking about moments where sometimes it's hard to know. Is this God leading me here, or did I put myself here? Because you don't always know the choices that you made are the right choices, right?
That's the fun part of the journey, though, right? That's if you're down to where you're hashing that out, that's kind of a good spot, like because you're trying to purify your motives. Yeah,
Yes.
I want to do the right thing.
Well, and I keep thinking about, like, you're saying that, but then I want to ask myself, well, am I right? Well, forget that. Where's God? What's He doing? And go there.
Oh yeah.
We talk about that in churches and different
Experiencing God
ministries,
thing, yeah.
and it's kind of like, why are you trying to push a rock up a hill? God's always doing stuff. He's active, He's alive, and it's happening, and life is being changed in a lot of people, and we tend to want God to come over to our party. Here's what I'm doing. Come bless this. Why? And then you're having feelings like, am I in God's will? And, well, where is He? What is He doing? And go where He goes. And I love that about you. said this not too long ago that you finally decided to not worry about a church or what you just said. Wherever you're doing a word, God, I'm gonna follow that. Something that was super paraphrased, right? But he said something to that effect, and I thought, that's so true. We need to be flexible and allow the shepherd to move us to the greener grass instead of always saying, I want to eat here. Come and stand guard over me while I eat here.
That's the hardest thing.
Right?
That takes faith.
He knows where the good grass is.
Instead of asking God to bless what we're doing, ask God what He's doing so that we can be what He's blessing so that we can be a part of it.
Oh, that's
See, I
good.
wish
like
you
that.
would have said that. See, I was trying to say
That was he said it so much better than
I was stumbling, and that, here, you can come back next week.
This guy's back up a long time.
Yeah, that's the longest
Back
I've
up.
ever heard any kind of thing back up.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna back up for 20 minutes. All right.
Yeah, and I think it gets back to is again is the prodigal son comes home. He gets this really reminding who he is. God's reminding who he is. I think when you're trying to follow God and you're trying to meet Him, like use the gifts He's given you, I think you got to get this punitive mentality out of your mind that God's kind of a petty dad. He's like, I wanted you to wash the car like this. You tried to wash it like that. Now I'm pissed. And I'm like, I don't think that's how it works. I think we tend to look to all of our results and determine them as they're consequential all the time. Jesus did it all right and He died. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Paul did it all right. He was martyred. You know what I mean? Like I'm trying to move away from if I don't get the exact result I want, I must be doing it wrong. I'm more focusing on, I'm going to talk to other believers. I'm going to look at the Word. I'm going to pray about it. I'm going to purify my heart. And I'm going to go forward where I believe God's leading me in community. And you know what? That might lead me to a crucifixion at times. And say, okay, that's all right.
Even Paul knew
Make it
that.
so exciting.
And of course, Jesus knew, but Paul knew that whether in life or in death, he was going to glorify God. His purpose was glorifying God, not I'm going to do this and there's going to be, a church filled with 5,000 people. I mean, that was not. He didn't. I don't think he saw it that way. He saw my life is going to glorify God whether I live or whether I die.
Whether it's 5 people or 5,000.
Right.
Just got down to he made it his mission, what's my gift, what's my call, what's my purpose, I know I'm loved, and then went. And I think that is hard for us because we're like, hey, what's my gift, what's my call, what's my purpose? Now did I get the results I want?
Well, that's very American.
It's very
right?
American.
Very American. Success has to be in terms of dollars or popularity or so. How many likes did you get on YouTube or I don't know if YouTube does likes, but
Yeah, it does.
I know Facebook does. But how, did you have enough followers? That's so
Caught up
American.
with numbers.
Right. It's so American. That's not God.
Well, and some people will even say so much well, if God's blessing your ministry and your ministry is growing, then that's got to be the one and only indicator that God's in it.
Right, and
that's,
people will
that's
say,
not biblical.
People will say, well, healthy things grow.
Right.
Right.
So
That's
if
the
you're
one
not
thing.
experiencing growth,
How many mega church
in-
pastors
in
we found out were doing
numbers,
jacked up stuff and it was growing? God made it grow.
God makes
in
it
spite
grow.
of what was happening
Like
behind
Pharaoh,
the
like
scenes.
Pharaoh.
I went to Willow Creek in its heyday, 20-some thousand people. And Willow Creek would put on these leadership conferences saying here's how you do it. And as a member who got saved, I'm like, are you taking the credit for what God has done? Your little organizational element was cool, but that didn't bring 20,000 people here. Jesus did. There are other people who would leave those conferences, apply all those techniques, and get none of those results.
None of it.
None. They do it to the letter. Got none of those results. It's God doing it. Let me read a couple comments here that we're getting.
Yeah, I saw a bunch of stuff.
Brent Taylor said, God uses our pain / our stories to connect with others, works all things together for the good of those who love him. Luke Williams says, sometimes you don't know the reason why, you just have to do it. Oh, it's a military thing. Mine is not the question why, sorry. Until you go through it and reflect back. Then the light bulb comes on. Thanks God for giving me what I actually need, not what I thought I needed. And then Brent added as well, God revealed to me that there was much freedom and surrender when my wife was battling cancer. Learning to lean in, reach out, and trust more, I can see it much clearer now that this storm has passed.
Yeah, I wasn't going to share Brent's story, but it was more powerful maybe to me, that first comment, because I know their story.
Yeah.
And when you talk about pain and you talk about people that have experienced some hell on earth, the Taylors have. And I fortunate, I have the honor of being their friends, and seeing how they continue to allow God to use some of the darkest moments of their lives to shine light into others. Pretty amazing.
That guy, is he only going backwards? I just want to know. Is that the rule here? You only go backwards.
Well, he showed up late to the forklift class, and they were already on backing up.
Yes,
So he's got that down.
That's how you guys do it here, huh?
That's funny.
Yeah.
We're just trying to be countercultural.
I got stuff. There he is again. Any other thoughts
like you're at Home Depot.
about this verse? Any other thoughts about this verse? The Lord is my shepherd; I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters.
I like the fact that I don't know that it definitely could be spiritualized, but when I'm asking God to fulfill a need, I don't want a pat on the back. Well, I'm all you need. What I want is whatever the need is to be filled, and I think God does that. I think God's very practical. It's certainly spiritual, but I think God is highly practical. You needed a house. Now, you wanted 8 months ago, but God knew you needed a house, and somehow, I don't know why the delay, right? Maybe you'll never know. Maybe someday you will know. Maybe it was to build some character in you and your wife, or
Who
you know.
needs that?
Yeah, my life's been too easy. You know, only child, private school, just
Right. So I think I do think that God fulfills our practical need, but God fulfills it first by filling us with Him, and then He leads us to the place where we need to be.
Well said.
Yeah, that's good.
Well said.
Any thoughts, Gary?
God is awesome, man. Just follow Him.
Well, that.
Easier said than done.
It is easier said than done, for
Yeah.
sure.
No, it's true.
It's only hard when my desires conflict with God's plan, right? And sometimes I think His plan should be my desire, and it's not always that way, unfortunately.
Well, so if this were Holy Smoke, we would say we still have another half hour to go.
Another hour.
Hour?
That's an hour.
So Holy Smoke, someone asked, well, how long does the Holy Smoke go? And what do we always say? The length of a cigar.
Depends on
An
how you
hour and a
smoke
half.
it.
Yeah, well, it dips some people, yeah, it takes two. But for burnt offerings, it's 30 minutes and we're done. So
We're done.
Thank you for watching.
It's a
and,
short story.
Share it
look
with
forward-
everyone.
Yeah, share it, and we look forward to seeing you every Tuesday at noon. And we'll unpack the verse together. Thanks.
See ya.